MeMonster.
Chapter 351, Paris, France. Astaroth's barrier around Madrid had been lifted. As many had feared, Astaroth, who emerged from the barrier, brought with him a powerful army. The devil reached Paris in no time. Hajin traveled to Paris to stop Astaroth. But by the time she arrived, Paris was already in ruins. Astaroth and his army were trampling the city and slaughtering humans. The screams of innocent victims rang out endlessly, and the heroes were helpless against the devil's attack. Looking at the ruins of her old hometown, Hajin bit her lip. Something hot boiled up in her heart. The brutal killings filled her with anger. I'm glad I didn't bring a vandal with me, she thought. However, suddenly the unicorn cried out. The unicorn, who had brought Hajin here at Evandal's command, shuddered at the horrendous state of Paris. Evandal had ignored her master's warning and shared vision with the unicorn. "Evandal!" Hajin shouted. Damn it! Evandal's spirit beasts, having noticed her master's agitation, suddenly lost control. They threw themselves at the devil's army. Everyone turned their attention to Hajin, and she had no choice but to call upon her summoned beasts. The azure dragon and the black turtle, two of Hajin's most adored summoned beasts, responded to her call. "It's Duchess Hajin! The reinforcements are here!" The azure dragon took to the sky while the black turtle occupied the earth. Noticing the arrival of the cardinal beasts, the heroes of France cheered for Hajin. This was the beginning of an all-out war between tamed beasts and the devil. Kwang! The spirit beasts and demons clashed violently. Explosions erupted everywhere, and the cries of spirit beasts mingled with the screams of demons. The situation wasn't in favor of humans, as the spirit beasts lost their chain of command and went berserk. "Evandal!" Hajin sent Evandal a mental transmission, but there was no reply. The cruel war with endless deaths was still too much for the young girl. Evandal's spirit beasts also noticed her master's agitation. Some thought she was in danger and left the battlefield altogether. "Evandal! Hang in there, Evandal!" Hajin shouted. It was then that the flow of air stretched and sound slowed down. Hajin could feel the movement of the air and particles in the atmosphere. It was a strange sensation. She stopped and looked around. The world had slowed down just as her senses did. The spirit beasts were frozen in place, with their claws pointed forward, and rays of demonic energy hung motionless in the air. "It seems this has become quite a bit of trouble." A small voice flowed into Hajin's ears. Startled, she turned. "Ah!" Hajin widened her eyes. An old man stood there. His thick gray hair and deep eyes were memorable. "You're..." Hajin knew who he was. Not only was she familiar with his appearance, but she had also felt his magic power before. There was no way she could ever forget such a pure and marvelous power. This old man was Jin, the world's first and last 10-star Grand Magician, and a member of the 9 stars. "It's been a while." Jin gave a small smile. Hajin couldn't say a thing. She had first met him 20 years ago at a magic tower. At the time, Jin was the head of Seoul Magic Power, and she was just a beginner who couldn't control even the simplest magic. But one day, Jin left the tower. Even then, the Grand Magician had been well known for his peculiar character. Everyone thought he would return soon, but he never did. The first and last Grand Magician soon disappeared from the world of magic. Grand Magician Jin name? That's why Hajin couldn't believe her eyes. Despite the many shocking rumors that he was suffering from dementia or that he had been castrated, Jin had not appeared in public in years. But now here he was in front of the devil's army. "Yes, it's good to see you, Hajin." "Pardon? Of course, but how did you get here? No, more than that, what have you been doing up until now?" Hajin couldn't even speak properly. Nevertheless, the Grand Magician replied with a smile. "A few months ago there was a young man who came to see me. He told me he needed my help. Though his dementia healed thanks to the medicine he received from Kim Hajin, it took him a long time to reclaim his sense of magic lost over the years. Also, he had a difficult time persuading his wife, who always worried too much. I was hiding because I needed a little time, but that's all in the past now. Move over. I'll deal with him. The old man plodded past her. Hajin turned and looked at his back. It was just an old man's back, but it felt as big as a tower. The old man held a long tree branch like a cane and shook it very lightly. And the world stopped. This was not hyperbole. Everything except Hajin and Jin ceased to move. This mesmerized Hajin. She couldn't help but admire such an astonishing skill. Jin, the great 10-star grand magician, had defied the logic of man and nature and reached a miracle. He could control exerted time, in other words, all the movements of the world. Essence of the straight underground facility. As soon as I activated the dimensional entropy, I also activated Buster Call. My stigma hadn't been restored completely, but I was able to summon Genkop's vessel using overclocking. Are you done, Sue? Hajin asked. I nodded and turned my gaze to her. Andromelos, the rank 72 devil. Though he was ranked last, he was still a devil. However, right now, he was crunch, crunch, being eaten alive by drones Mimyo. Don't overdo it, Mimyo. You might get a stomachache later. Drone patted Mimyo, and Mimyo wiggled his ears. That whole scene was pretty mind-boggling. I gave a bitter smile and began speaking to Horner. Horner, are you there? Yes, sir. Everyone is on standby. His voice never failed to ease my mind. Moreover, when I checked the vessel with the 1,000-mile eyes, I could see that the whole ship, not just Horner, had been upgraded greatly. How are things down there? According to the supercomputer, not so good. We've detected 2 powerful devils. It had only been about 10 seconds since I summoned the ship, but the supercomputer had already completed all the calculations. Trying to conceal my surprise, I answered, Got it. We'll be there. I'll open the portal. All of a sudden, a portal sprang up right in front of me. This technology had never failed to amaze me. Come in, your guest is waiting for you. My guest? Who? I had a rough idea who it was. I had just activated the dimensional entropy, so the timing was right too. Okay, I'll head over right now. You guys protect this place. I told the members of the chameleon troupe who were preparing to follow me. At present, the dimensional entropy was more important than anything in the world, so I needed to leave it in the hands of trustworthy people.
Why should you have all the fun? Fine. Jane pouted at first, but nodded when she felt Boss glare at her. I'll leave it to you. Yu Yenha, follow me. Pardon? Okay. I entered the portal and Yu Yenha followed me while glancing at Boss. Genklopi's vessel. As soon as I entered the portal, I saw the letters Genklopi's vessel engraved on the ceiling of the ship. Long time no see, sir. Horner greeted us with a welcoming smile. Long time no see. This is Yu Yenha. I introduced Yu Yenha to Horner. She shook hands with Horner and looked around the ship. Let's get moving now. We don't have much time. Yes, please follow me, ship commander. I followed Horner to the control room. From there, we could freely observe the battlefield below. Many heroes are fighting there right now. Horner pointed to where Ball and Morax had been summoned. The situation didn't look good even at a glance. It was more of a one-sided slaughter than a war. The number of monsters and demons hadn't changed at all, while the number of heroes was decreasing rapidly. They don't really care about us, do they? Even though this ship is huge, I asked curiously. Horner answered, We are currently in stealth mode, so the enemy can't see us. Really? Yes, we've been waiting for your order. Should we proceed? Horner looked down at the demons, his expression sour. He was clearly burning with anger, perhaps because his hometown in the Tower of Wish had been captured by demons as well. Yes, let's go. Thank you. Genklopi soldiers, get ready. As soon as I gave my permission, Horner solemnly ordered the soldiers to sortie. Immediately, the ship lifted its stealth mode, revealed its steel body, and opened its hangar. Shoo-kwa! Hundreds of fighter jets were dispatched from the hangar. It was then. So this is where you were, Kim Hajin. Someone called my name and stood beside me. I knew who it was without even looking. Yeah, it's been a while. You betcha. Long time no see. My name is Tomer from the Empire. It was Tomer. Much stronger than the last time we met. She was wearing luxurious and powerful-looking armor and a cape. Near the Korean border, Shin Jong-hak looked up in a daze. A pillar of light rose from the ground, and a huge warship appeared in the sky and began bombing the demons. Not only Shin Jong-hak, but many of the heroes gathered failed to understand the current situation. Oi! A woman approached Shin Jong-hak, who was still dazed by the scene. Shin Jong-hak flinched and swung his spear towards the woman, but she easily blocked the conqueror's spear. Shin Jong-hak glared at her and asked, "Why?" "Why what?" The woman Jin Sa-yak gave an inscrutable smile. Shin Jong-hak frowned. "What I meant to say was, why are you here?" "Well, it's nothing serious." Jin Sa-yak scratched her cheek awkwardly. The truth was that Jin Sa-yak wanted to run away. She wanted to escape from the nightmare that was Morax. Using the dimensional stone in her possession, she could easily return to Akaterina. Unfortunately, that was never an option. Morax would never give up on her. She knew that if she didn't take care of him here and now, he would follow her all the way to Akaterina. And so Jin Sa-yak went to Shin Jong-hak. "Well, do you remember Bell saying that Shin Ming-chol left you something very important?" Shin Ming-chol was the first clue to Breaking Ball in Morax. Shin Jong-hak showed interest in the name. "Yeah, he did say that. What about it?" "Ah, nothing. Just that I remembered something important." Shin Jong-hak grabbed the conqueror's spear. Jin Sa-yak hadn't said a word yet, but he knew she was going to insult Shin Ming-chol. "I'll kill her before she does," he decided. Jin Sa-yak, however, put her hand on his shoulder without saying a word. Shin Jong-hak looked down at her hand with a frown, then turned the scowl on her. Catching his eye, Jin Sa-yak announced, "I think I figured out what Shin Ming-chol left you." "What?" Jin Sa-yak had a dream today about Aaron and Prihi. Memories of those days in Akaterina remained in her heart as regret, and Morax was the physical manifestation of that regret. It was most certainly a tormenting trauma. But thanks to that excruciating experience, Jin Sa-yak realized just what Shin Ming-chol's legacy that Bell mentioned was, and where it was hidden. "Are you serious?" Shin Jong-hak asked, suspicious. "I don't tell lies, so just shut up and follow me, loser." Jin Sa-yak muttered and grabbed Shin Jong-hak's shoulder, then activated her authority without waiting for his answer. At that moment, Shin Jong-hak felt as if he was being sucked into something. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He felt nauseous, but nothing would come up. About 30 seconds passed in that uncomfortable state. Shin Jong-hak opened his eyes. What the hell?" He looked around, panting. He was surrounded in black. Nothing was here but Jin Sa-yak. "Damn it! Oi, where the hell am I?" "Where do you think?" "We're inside your mind." "What? What is that even? What the hell are you talking about?" It seemed that in place of confusion, anger was about to take control of Shin Jong-hak. Leaving him to vent alone, Jin Sa-yak looked around the dark. "If my guess is correct, then you'll meet that Shin Ming-chol guy who you seem to love so much."
Chapter 352. Shin Jong-hak stared at Jin Sa-yak in silence. Her words, suggesting that he could meet Shin Myung-chol, captivated him more than anything. But of course, it was hard to believe such a thing was possible. "We're inside my mind, you said?" Shin Jong-hak asked the most basic question first. Currently, he was surrounded by darkness. Though Jin Sayak claimed the space was his mind, Shin Jong-hak simply couldn't accept her answer. Despite his doubt, Jin Sayak nodded without hesitation. "Yeah, I've recreated your mind to my liking." It was one of the many applications of reality manipulation. Jin Sayak observed Shin Jong-hak's mind and recreated it so she could uncover Shin Myung-chul's legacy buried inside his consciousness. Shin Jong-hak seemed quite dissatisfied with the whole setup. He wasn't happy with the voidness of the surrounding view. "What did you say?" A vein popped out on Shin Jong-hak's temple. He stumbled back, almost at the same time. Several objects were rising from the darkness beneath his feet. "What are these?" This took Shin Jong-hak by surprise. Rising out of the swampy darkness were objects deeply related to his ego. Kim Hajin's sculpture of Shin Jong-hak, the youngest high-rank hero certificate, Shang Yu's conqueror's spear, and even a statue of Chae Na-yoon. But the most important of them all was the door at the rear. Shin Myung-chul. The iron gate was inscribed with Shin Myung-chul's name. "Follow me." While Shin Jong-hak stood in awe, Jin Sayak began to walk towards the gate. Doubtful of her intentions, Shin Jong-hak followed closely behind. He didn't forget to cover Chae Na-yoon's statue with his coat so that Jin Sayak wouldn't misunderstand. Myung-chul. It's a pretty corny name, don't you think? Jin Sayak banged on the iron gate a couple of times and looked back at Shin Jong-hak. Shin Jong-hak said nothing. Instead, he began pondering his own existence. He knew very well the public opinion of himself as a hero. They called him the youngest high-rank hero, the vice leader of the giant guild Desolate Moon, the heir of Jin Song Corp, and a handsome man who could beat even the most famous celebrities in looks alone. Though all these descriptions were remarkable in their own ways, Shin Jong-hak never forgot his roots. He was no way he could ever forget. In this vast world, only he was allowed to take such pride in himself. That is, pride as the grandson of Shin Myung-chul. "Are you saying my grandfather's behind that door?" Shin Jong-hak asked. He had so many questions left. Jin Sayak gave a candid nod. "Yes, probably. My guess is that Shin Myung-chul sealed a part of his soul in the deepest corner of your consciousness, just like I did. Until recently, Jin Sayak's memories of Akatrina had been sealed inside her. She did that because she didn't think she could face her current life properly with the burdens of her past life in her heart. Thankfully, this experience served as a clue to her. Jin Sayak suspected Shin Myung-chul had used a similar method. Bell said that Shin Myung-chul left Shin Jong-hak a legacy. Perhaps, she thought, Shin Myung-chul used the same method as I did, just in a completely different way. "It's not that I trust you completely, but—" Shin Jong-hak gulped. He gave Jin Sayak a doubtful look and brought his hands to the gate. Then he tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. A groan escaped Shin Jong-hak's lips. Still, his efforts seemed futile. "Try using your magic power," Jin Sayak interrupted. Shin Jong-hak leered at her, then poured his magic power into the gate. The gate responded and finally began to move. The iron gate vibrated as it answered to Shin Jong-hak's magic power. Soon it opened smoothly like a clam opening its mouth. Kiek! Kong! The heavy sound of iron rang out. Shin Jong-hak looked at the other side of the gate, his feet planted on the ground. He gulped in anticipation. He could feel his heart sink as if something big and heavy had just dropped on top of it. There was a man standing on the other side of the gate. He could see him clearly. His shoulders were as wide as a mountain and his posture as straight as a river. His long hair covered both sides of his body. Shin Jong-hak felt a shiver down his spine. The mere sight of the man completely stunned him. Shin Jong-hak gulped again and slowly turned his gaze to Jin Sayak. "If this is some kind of trick—" "I told you it's not," Jin Sayak answered in a seemingly annoyed voice. Shin Jong-hak glared at her one last time and crossed the threshold of the gate. At that moment, something strange happened. The man began moving awkwardly, like a broken clockwork puppet. Then he slowly raised his head. Shin Jong-hak could see his eyes now. Their gazes met. A small, barely visible smile spread across the man's face. At the same time, he felt as if his body had been set on fire. Shin Myung-chol, the hero that had left Shin Jong-hak an everlasting impression, was there. Private bunker of the Chancellor of Germany. Meanwhile, Valak's army devastated Eastern Europe and reached Germany. Europe was now besieged by two devils, Astaroth in the west and Valak in the east. Astaroth destroyed Paris, and Germany didn't stand a chance against Valak. The devils took complete control of Europe as the two great calamities. "We're at our limit. Berlin can't hold out any longer," Janice announced pitifully. His hands trembled in fear as he sent over the footage of Berlin's defense barrier to Lee Gang-myung. Lee Gang-myung studied the footage carefully. As Supreme Commander, it was his duty to map out a strategy that would lead the team to victory. "It's coming down." Still, there wasn't much he could say. It was clear that Berlin's defenses were being toppled by the demons' attack. The army of demons swiftly ravaged Poland and arrived at Berlin. It was only a matter of time before Berlin's defense barrier, the product of cutting-edge magic engineering, crumbled. "Can we at least evacuate the people?" Janice asked. Lee Gang-myung shook his head. Both east and west had been seized by the enemies. This meant the citizens could not travel by land, but it was also impossible to evacuate billions of people through portals. They had run into a dead end. "What do you expect me to do then?" Janice yelled. He was beginning to tear up. The guilt of not being able to save his people weighed heavily on his heart. Lee Gang-myung said with a sigh, "Please try to hold on a little longer. There's not much we can do at this point in time. Bal, Morax, and a third devil have invaded Korea. I'm afraid the situation here is not so good either. But I'm sure we'll be able to come up with something." The Chancellor clenched his teeth. Despair and disappointment replaced his rage in his heart. He ruminated on the current situation again. He was currently inside an underground bunker in Korea. Germany's commander-in-chief, along with the members of his cabinet, had abandoned their people and evacuated to a bunker in a foreign country. It was hypocritical of him to worry about the people he had left behind by choice. "I understand." Just as the Chancellor spat out words of resignation, the screen that showed Berlin suddenly turned white. Janice widened his eyes. What's going on?" Janice exclaimed in German. It didn't take long for him to understand what had just happened. The end had come. Demons had succeeded in destroying Germany. Janice closed his eyes and clenched his fists. The cabinet ministers inside the bunker reacted similarly. Slowly, the whiteness of the screen began to fade away. The blinding light disappeared and Berlin revealed itself again, but the revealed scenery was markedly different from before. Suddenly, they heard a strange voice coming out of the speaker.
"The time has come for us to strike."
Janice dropped his jaw in awe.
"The time has come to recover our homeland from the darkness and reveal our bravery."
The voice resounded gravely. At the same time, a group of soldiers in uniform appeared in fields beyond the barrier. To the people in the bunker, the appearance of these soldiers seemed even more unrealistic than the demons occupying Germany.
"We shall therefore advance and slay evil without hesitation."
The scene unfolding before their eyes was far beyond their understanding. "Commander?" Janice called Lee Gang-myung with his gaze locked onto the screen. But no reply came from the Supreme Commander. He was in no state to answer the Chancellor. Lee Gang-myung was looking at a different screen. Germany was not the only country he had been observing. The soldiers who arrived in Germany were only a fraction of the total. Throughout the world, rays of light descended from the sky. Through the passage of light came reinforcements from another dimension. Bearing unimaginable strength, these soldiers came from Craven to fulfill their promise to Earth. I recognized the man at the front. "Commander, Ki Perong is here!" Janice pointed at the man at the front of the army. The man was indeed Ki Parong. Even Jeunesse had heard of him before. A celebrity inside the tower was also a celebrity outside. Yi Gongmyong finally responded to Jeunesse's call. He widened his eyes slightly and looked at the soldiers on the screen.
Yes, I see him.
What does this mean? Jeunesse asked urgently. But Yi Gongmyong remained silent, and the soldiers started to advance. Ki Parong's sword spewed out a wave of magic power. The crowd cheered when they saw that the wave devoured the demons as a whole.
Ki Parong, Kim Yusin, Guanchang. Most of them are harangs from Cravan. I'm having trouble grasping the situation myself, but it seems that luck is on our side. Chancellor, please assist them as much as you can. Yi Gongmyong announced gravely. Jeunesse turned his gaze to the battlefield. The commander of the army made up of harangs, who he guessed to be Kim Yusin, swung his sword. The chi from the sword formed thousands of human figures. The soldiers, made up of magic power, formed an army of their own. They moved at the command of their master, Kim Yusin. The soldiers protected the German heroes and began attacking the demons. Looking at the screen, the chancellor clenched his fists. The arrival of reinforcements had turned the tables, as Cravan's harangs overpowered the demons in all aspects. The chancellor ordered his men to assist the harangs as much as possible. A glimmer of hope was beginning to bloom in the hearts of people all over the world. Genkalope's vessel. I postponed my meeting with Tomer because the situation was bad. She and I headed to the ship's control room. A huge holographic screen, which occupied one side of the wall, showed the heroes of Cravan, who had returned to Earth. Tomer snapped her fingers and announced proudly, "In China, we have Lu Bu and Chang Liao. In Japan, we have Musashi. Kim Yusin and Ki Parong are in Germany, and Lancelot is in the U.S. Add in my soldiers and the Imperial Army, and the total is about 200,000. That many? This took me by surprise. I only did a rough job of portraying these historical figures in the original novel and never thought they would actually appear. Yeah, a lot. A lot of them were living in hiding in Cravan, and when I explained the situation to them, they said they'd help. Oh. I turned my gaze to the screen. As she said, Musashi, Miyamoto, Lu Bu, Lancelot, and Sila's harangs were hard at work on the battlefield. In the past, all of these men lived on Earth, and after they died, their souls were revived in the tower, and now they were slaughtering the devils and demons to rescue their home. What do you think? Should we sit back and relax? Tomer shrugged with a relaxed look. No. But I shook my head. This was still not enough. We still needed more strength to prepare for our final battle against Baal. I finally decided it was time to use the secret weapons I'd kept hidden. You should go help Suho for now. Suho? Kim Suho? Yeah. And what do you plan to do in the meantime? I took a card out of my pocket and smiled. Even with my superhuman luck, I could only secure one copy. What's that? Tomer tilted her head. I answered calmly. It's a 9-star card. You know, from the Card Kingdom. 9-star? Tomer frowned as if doubting my words. Apparently, cards from the Card Kingdom were famous even in Cravan. A direct trade route had been established after they gained control of the 9th floor. How is that even possible? The most our Empress could get were 2 8-star cards. To resolve Tomer's doubts, I showed her the 9-star card. Her eyes widened immediately. Whoa, is that for real? Hey, come on, hand it over. Let me take a look. No way. Tomer reached out to the card, but I had no intention of handing it over. I hid the card away from her. Oh, come on. Just let me peek at it for a sec. Enough. I held the card with my fingers and injected stigma into it. Let's see what we'll get. The card, now infused with my magic power, began to tremble. I let go of it, and the card that escaped my hand slowly rose into the air. Then suddenly, pat! It flashed and disappeared into thin air. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed, and what the hell? Bewildered, Tomer and I looked at each other. I blinked in confusion, but Tomer soon began to wiggle her eyebrows as if she was proud of herself for figuring out my trick. Aha! I see what's going on. That card was fake, right? No, it wasn't.
Chapter 353. Under the dark sky, waves of blood covered the earth. Piles of corpses formed mountains, and intestines rolled about like stones on the ground. Even at the scene of one of the most horrendous massacres in human history, the murderer, Baal, remained calm. He seemed apathetic, just like a human killing ants. Kwa! Somewhere, magic power raged. Baal turned his gaze to the source of the sound. Kim Suho's sword strike was coming for him. Baal scattered the sword strike with a single motion of his hand. But Kim Suho was persistent. He continued to wield his sword, though by now he must have realized that he, a mere human, was no match for the transcendent evil that was Baal. Ta! With a shout, Kim Suho poured his all into his sword. But Baal easily parried his blow. Clang! Baal's demonic energy and Kim Suho's sword collided with a sharp clang. Then suddenly, another sword cut through their point of contact. You bastard! With a loud shout, Che Nayun swung her magic sword, which was as big as Morax. Che Nayun extended her sword, hoping it would reach Baal. In response, the devil stretched out his demonic energy, and a thin string of it destroyed the core of her sword, shattering it to bits. Suddenly, a smile flickered across Baal's face. Che Nayun's sword, which had covered half his view, disappeared, and now he could clearly see those who had been hiding behind it. Countless heroes, each with unique weapons and powers, raced toward Baal. He recognized all of them: Rachel, Yu Shi-hook, Yu Jinwoong, Eileen, Nicholas. As he perceived their names and faces, Baal suddenly grew tired. He regretted synchronizing with Belle. If it weren't for Belle's memories, he wouldn't have allowed those ants to bother him in the first place. Instead of facing the heroes, Baal slowed the time around them. In a world of stillness, Baal carefully observed each and every one of them. They were filled with determination. Clearly, nothing could break their resolve to protect their world. Looking at their faces, Baal began to ponder the concept of a novel. Was this where he was supposed to fall? If so, for what did he destroy all those different worlds? Were all his years of life just a fictional device for this moment? Baal looked up at the sky in silence. White specks of dust slowly appeared in the dark sky. These specks represented rays of light that poured down toward the earth in slow motion. Each of these rays represented a portal carrying reinforcements from another dimension. Looking at the scene before his eyes, Baal smiled bitterly. What is this? Has God responded to the human's prayers? Then where was this God when I was destroying other worlds? This wasn't the kind of contemplation that suited a devil. Baal closed his eyes, and the speed of the world returned to normal. Baal! Kim Suho called Baal's name and glanced at Morax behind him. Baal's face was expressionless as he looked straight at Kim Suho. He had plenty of questions for the hero. Do you know where you came from? What if you were just a toy, a doll designed for the sake of entertaining higher beings? Will you still sacrifice your life just to kill me? Baal didn't ask, so Kim Suho didn't answer. Baal already knew Kim Suho's answer based on Belle's memories. Whoever I am, whatever this world is, it doesn't matter. I'm just protecting people who are precious to me. That was what Kim Suho would say. Sir Suho, so this is where you were. Krevon's troops lined up behind Kim Suho, who stood firm with his sword in hand. Most of the soldiers were knights, but there were priests and magicians among them as well. Kim Suho glanced at them and nodded. Very funny. Baal scoffed and examined the world before him. Morax was in perfect shape, and he still had many soldiers left. Still, humans are obstinate. A huge metallic object floated in the sky, bombarding demons, and those who couldn't possibly exist in this world descended from the sky through the paths of light.
Old man! At that moment, letters appeared in front of Bao. He realized immediately who had sent him this message. Laraj. Where are you? I can't help you. Bao clenched his teeth. Where are you? It wouldn't be a bad idea to withdraw here. Don't make me say it again, Bao growled, not even trying to hide his anger. But Laraj was insistent. You already lost your castle. Don't push yourself too hard. Why don't you just give up this time? Castle? Bao's castle served as an important medium that linked the phenomenon realm and the transcendent realm. Without his castle, Bao's demonic energy was no longer infinite, and the number of soldiers he could summon decreased as well. And that castle had already been destroyed by a certain foe. Leave! Bao shook Laraj off. Boal was dead, and Vasago and Laraj had no intention of cooperating with Bao. He realized that victory was no longer a guarantee. That did not mean he intended to step down. Even if he was fated to die here, even if he was created to eventually lose. I'll destroy this world by myself. With a firm look of determination, Bao took a step forward. Kim Suho's eyes and thousands of pairs of eyes lined up behind him turned to Bao. Bao faced them straight as he altered his body. He broke out of his human form and took on the form of a devil. It was then, choik! Suddenly, arrows, spears, and swords pierced the devil's body. More than pain, he felt perplexed. There was nothing special about these weapons, yet they had managed to cut through his demonic energy and wound his demonic flesh. Bao opened his eyes wide and turned to where the attack had come from. He felt confused, almost astonished by what he saw next. A magician was there. Bao knew her name even without relying on Belle's memories. Shimurin, the Grand Magician. How? But Shimurin wasn't the only one who had appeared out of the blue. The soldiers of the other world who escaped destruction had arrived on Earth through Shimurin's magic. These soldiers aimed at Bao, each armed with exorcism weapons. This world sure is humid. Muttering, Shimurin stepped forward. Bao said nothing. He tried hard to grasp the present situation. He knew Shimurin died a long time ago. He had never experienced anything like this in thousands of years. Suddenly, a voice flowed into Bao's ears. You brought this on yourself, Bao. Bao recognized this voice. Vasago, the rank 2 devil. She went on as if none of this surprised her at all. You regenerated the first world you descended into and brought to ruin. The only way you could overcome the law of causality and descend entirely was to destroy the world once again, which had already been destroyed. But this time, the world you regenerated was not destroyed. Someone protected that world, and now its people came to hunt you down. Bao was silent. He turned his gaze at Shimurin and the other humans. The Republic of Liores, the Kingdom of Arunheim.
His feelings towards the people of the other world were contradictory. He considered them insignificant, but at the same time he also missed them. The devil hunter named Harin, the knight named Irun, the magician named Shimurin, and the prince by the name of Crisbel. A smile spread across Ball's face as he locked gazes with his old friend. Essence of the Straight Underground Bunker. Yu Yonha's office. Yu Yonha sat in an office full of hologram screens. Each screen broadcast real-time situations around the world. Everyone was fighting the same war under different skies. East Asia, Oceania, America, and Europe. All the continents were engulfed in war, and death and destruction spread like infectious diseases throughout the world. Focus on saving lives. There's enough food and medicine in the bunker. Roger. With the brutality of the war still in mind, Yu Yonha gave orders to her people. She was well aware of her duties as the chief officer of Essence of the Strait. I think dimensional entropy is safe now. Suddenly, a leisurely voice rang in Yu Yonha's ears. Yu Yonha slowly raised her head. Ja-in was leaning against the wall of the office. We've worked pretty hard. Do we get anything for it, too? Yu Yonha frowned. It wasn't that she didn't want to give rewards. What bothered her was Ja-in's appearance. Ja-in was disguised as Kim Hajin. There will be plenty of rewards. You don't have to worry about that. What's with the sour face? It's your disguise, Yu Yonha muttered, and Ja-in smirked. Slowly, Ja-in approached Yu Yonha, still in disguise. I said stop. Enough with the jokes. Yu Yonha blushed as Kim Hajin's face neared hers. What do you think? It's amazing, right? My disguise, I mean. I can even change my voice. Ja-in grinned and caressed Yu Yonha's cheek. When the warm hand with the same temperature as Kim Hajin's reached her, Yu Yonha gulped. It was then. Chief Officer! Surprised by the voice calling her, Yu Yonha pushed Ja-in away. Ja-in clicked her tongue, and Yu Yonha answered in a loud voice. What? Please take a look at this. The informant showed Yu Yonha a video. It was taken at a forest near Vladivostok. Two humanoid monsters were in it. At first, she thought it was nothing special. But then, the moment she recognized the two monsters, she felt her hair stand on end. Are you... Yes, the informant announced gravely. It's Orden. Feeling a painful throb in her head, Yu Yonha stared at Orden. Orden was pushing his way through the grass. He clearly had a destination in mind. Based on the analysis of his route, it was predicted that Orden was headed to the Korean border where the battle with Baal was currently taking place. Oh, Orden was coming here. Orden, who used to be humanity's worst enemy before Baal. He was coming to finally destroy Earth for good. Yu Yonha sank to the floor in despair. Her slender body slipped down the chair, and Ja-in smirked at the sight. But there's something strange about them. Yu Yonha couldn't focus on the words that followed. She thought everything was over now. She was barely holding out, and the news of Orden pushed her into a meltdown. If I'm gonna die like this, if everything is gonna end like this, wouldn't it be better to say what I haven't been able to say before I'm gone for good? With that in mind, Yu Yonha picked up her smartwatch instead of planting an apple tree.
Chapter 354. Shin Jong-hak looked at Shin Young-chul, who had been regenerated in his consciousness. He felt time slow around him. Because Shin Jong-hak was the owner of this space, time had actually slowed in reality. Shin Young-chul slowly got up. Shin Jong-hak's neck stiffened. His grandfather, whom he had missed so much, the man who was the guidepost of his life, his hero, was right in front of him. But Shin Jong-hak couldn't bring himself to move or speak. He only watched Shin Young-chul as if he were just a mirage that could disappear at any moment. It's been a while. Shin Young-chul spoke in the same old voice that Jong-hak had missed so much. Dazed, Shin Jong-hak stood still as a statue. Shin Young-chul patted his grandson on the shoulder and continued. Jong-hak, I have a lot to say to you. But first, let me start by apologizing. I'm sorry for being a horrible grandfather. Shin Jong-hak looked Shin Young-chul in the eye. In the past, he used to only look up at his grandfather, but now they were equally tall. And, I'm afraid I'm not good with words. What I meant to say is, Jong-hak, I've lived inside you for a long time. I've felt and experienced the same things you did. His voice was soft, like that of a grandfather reading bedtime stories to his grandson.
Listening to his grandfather, Shin Jong-hak felt a torrent of emotions form in his heart. When I was alive, and even now, I am distressed by your love, because it's too good for a coward like me. He dared not tell his grandson of his fault. The pain of betrayal his grandson would feel once he learned the truth worried Shin Young-chul more than his own suffering. I'm sure you know the truth now, and don't need my explanation. Jong-hak, I'm not a hero. Millions have died because of me. I've brought many disasters to the world, and most of them are still ongoing. Shin Young-chul confessed calmly, and Shin Jong-hak nodded. I know now, Shin Jong-hak thought to himself. Shin Young-chul could hear his grandson's thoughts. But even now, I still harbor a sense of relief deep in my selfish heart. After all, if I hadn't gone back in time, I wouldn't have been able to see you. A bitter smile spread across Shin Young-chul's face. That's why I can't truly regret my decision. It would mean denying my love for you. Shin Jong-hak felt tears streaming down his face. Shin Young-chul wiped away his grandson's tears with his big, rough hands. Jong-hak. Shin Jong-hak nodded in silence, and Shin Young-chul continued. Are you happy with who you are? The two men fell silent. Shin Young-chul smiled kindly. After a moment's thought, Shin Jong-hak nodded, but that was not the correct answer. It took Shin Jong-hak a while to finally find the courage to shake his head. It's good that you admitted it. Always be true to yourself and live without leaving behind any regrets. It's nothing big, but I've left something to help you out. But before that, I have a favor to ask of you. Shin Young-chul put his hand on Shin Jong-hak's shoulder. The weight of the hand seemed to press down on Shin Jong-hak's whole body. Feeling overwhelmed, Shin Jong-hak turned his gaze to Shin Young-chul. He was determined to grant his grandfather's wish no matter what. But what Shin Young-chul said next was completely unexpected. Please be the one to correct me. When everything is over, tell the world about my misdeed. Tell them that it was my selfish greed that almost destroyed the world. You should be the one to do so. Shin Jong-hak began to tremble. He looked at his grandfather with widened eyes. He couldn't believe his ears. To Shin Jong-hak, Shin Young-chul was an eternal hero. His grandfather's past didn't matter to him. He wanted to continue to admire Shin Young-chul based on his accomplishments and the memories of the days they spent together. Naturally, Shin Jong-hak couldn't imagine a future where Shin Young-chul's name was tainted. Shin Young-chul gave a bitter smile and put his hand on Shin Jong-hak's head. He then moved his hand slowly and began stroking his grandson as he had done many times in the past. Please, Jong-hak. This is my last wish for you. You're free to refuse, of course, and you'll still get the legacy I promised you, but I'd really like you to do it. Those soft words broke Shin Jong-hak down. All of a sudden, tears welled up in his eyes. Shin Jong-hak clenched his teeth, but tears were already running down his face. His legs trembled, and he soon began to sob loudly. Shin Jong-hak lowered his head in both embarrassment and sorrow. Like a child, he wailed miserably as in those days of the past. Shin Young-chul stared at his grandson for a long time. Finally, the boy's sobbing stopped, and a nod echoed in the hollow silence. Bao was thinking of the time he was still young. It must have been 10,000 or 100,000 years ago. Back then, he was still nothing. In those days, he was surrounded by a thin film. The beating of his existence began inside that film, and only then could he see and feel the world around him. At that time, he was neither a devil nor Bao. He was nothing. But as time passed, he naturally became a devil. Whether he wanted to be good or evil, he couldn't recall.
It just came to him one day that he was inherently a being parallel to good. He was designed to be evil. Believing so, he ripped through the films surrounding him. Immediately, his eyes reflected the view of the transcendent realm. It was a world full of stars. There, he earned the name Baal and learned to think by observing humans living in other worlds. Baal awoke from his recollection. He sighed. Up until now, he had never wondered about the origin of his existence. But now he had a vague idea of where he came from. Returner hero. Views 3,235,212. Favorites 21,325. Word count 1,372,153. A few numbers and words were all that it took. As hard as it was to believe, it was the truth. His years of solitude were derived from a crude novel written by a human. He recalled the world he saw in Belle's memory. There were no devils in that world. Religions were only beliefs, and magic couldn't affect the laws of physics. Humans dominated other species. Humans did not possess the ability to interfere with abstract concepts, and concepts couldn't exert power beyond the laws of nature to humans. Humans couldn't stop time, and time worked fairly for everyone. It was a scientific world consisting of thoroughly calculated and logical rules, with no room for magical interventions. Compared to his world, this world was quite plain. The world of extras built on complex laws and principles. Such was the Creator's world. "Hey up!" A loud shout brought Bao to his senses. He opened his eyes and looked at the countless humans rushing at him. They all appeared resolute. Bao smiled coldly. All of them were nothing but characters in a novel just like himself. Our existences are all in vain. Bao looked up into the distant sky. A huge chunk of metal was floating over his head, and in it was Kim Hajin, the author who created this world.
Bale felt a surge of anger. He glared at the author and boosted his demonic energy. To descend wholly, he vented his demonic energy like a volcano. The seething energy covered the whole world, encroaching on nature and drawing all characters into Bale's barrier. Bale roared in his barrier and vowed to himself once again, "I'll destroy your precious little world. I will not remain a mere toy." Bale's eyes turned crimson, and his darkness swallowed the world. Genkalopi's vessel. Exactly 30 seconds after the 9-star card disappeared, Shimurin appeared on the spot it vanished from. So, did that mean the 9-star card summoned Shimurin? But why? What kind of relationship did Shimurin have with the mural? Feeling confused, I looked down at the ground below. "What the? They're all people from the other world," Tomer muttered as she observed the soldiers of Leoris and Ehrenheim. I shrugged and turned to her. "Anyway, you should be getting ready to go down." "You want me to go too?" Tomer raised her eyebrows. She seemed to doubt whether they really needed her help. "Of course. We need all the help we can get." I nodded and took out the missile-time bullets that I'd been keeping in my stigma. The 4 long bullets were glowing faintly. "What are those?" Tomer asked, glancing at the bullets. I rubbed the bullets lightly for a few seconds before activating synthesis. Fusing missile-time bullets. As soon as the system message appeared, the 4 bullets merged into one. In addition to synthesis, I spent all my remaining SP to add the exorcism attribute to the final bullet. Whoa, they became one! Just like that, the ultimate bullet was born. But this alone wasn't enough to bring Bale down completely. I showed the bullet to Tomer, who had been watching this entire process with fervent interest. This should be able to drive Bale into a corner at least once. The weapon was ready. Now the most important thing was timing.
When the strength of all heroes unites, when my luck guides the luck of the others, and all the powers of the world come together, that would be the right time for me to fire this bullet. And that timing was probably... Kwang! Suddenly there was a huge explosion, and darkness swallowed everything. What? Tomer quickly raised her head. But there wasn't anything she could do. Immediately, the floor of the ship sunk. No, the ship itself disappeared, and the two of us began to fall 4,000 meters down to the ground. "Oh!" Tomer screamed. I summoned Spartan in a hurry. Spartan, who burst onto the scene like a hero, spread his wings and caught Tomer and me on his back. "Oh my God!" Tomer clutched her chest and began breathing heavily. Her reaction was understandable. Even a superhuman like her would not survive a 4,000-meter fall. I looked around nervously. Genkalopi's vessel was gone. The sky was gone. The trees and grass were gone. And we were surrounded by endless darkness. However, when I widened my eyes and looked further, I discovered a lot of familiar faces. Kim Suho, Chae Na-yoon, Yoon Sung-uh, Shimurin, Eileen. Surprised by the sudden change in scenery, they too were trying to comprehend the current situation. "Hey, where are we?" Tomer asked. I obtained information about this place through observation and reading. Baal's Barrier, a space created by Baal for his descent on Earth. It resembles Baal's transcendent realm. Well, it seemed that Baal had done something crazy. I replied bitterly, "Inside Baal's Barrier." "Huh? It looks like Baal brought us here." I turned my gaze to Tomer. Tomer stared back at me and chuckled. "So, that means that Baal is down there, right?" "That would be correct." "Okay then." Tomer rolled up her sleeves. With a playful smile, she increased her magic power. "I'll show you how I earned my nickname, Iron Blood Duchess." Her body began to burn blue. Her eyes and fingers, her heart and her hair, all of them were engulfed in azure flames. She was now the epitome of superhumans only seen in cartoons. "Okay, then I nodded and loaded the mistletoe bullet into the Desert Eagle. The truth was that I was scared, but I pretended to be fine and put my hand on Tomer's shoulder. "I'll cover you from behind." "Cover me?" Tomer seemed unsatisfied for whatever reason. "Yeah, I'm originally a sharpshooter, remember?" "Whatever." She nodded discontentedly, then flounced off at a speed faster than my bullet. Chapter 355. Shin Jong-hak's Mind. Jin Sa-hook didn't exactly enjoy watching two grown men cry in each other's arms. Still, she decided not to interfere. She didn't want to risk losing her chance to obtain Shin Myung-chel's legacy, whatever it was. As Jin Sa-hook watched Shin Jong-hak wail, she wondered why he had suddenly become such a crybaby. She crossed her arms and waited for the two to calm down. "It's time for me to go." When Shin Myung-chel finally said this, Jin Sa-hook let out a sigh of relief. Shin Jong-hak shook his head like a child, but Shin Myung-chel was resolute. The truth was, even if he wanted to stay, he couldn't. Shin Myung-chel's soul was already starting to fade. When Shin Jong-hak saw his grandfather's legs turn to dust and scatter, he lowered his head, sobbing. Shin Myung-chel, however, did not seem to fear death. He was clearly more concerned about his grandson than himself. He gave Shin Jong-hak a warm smile. "Think about all the things you're going to do as a hero." Shin Jong-hak raised his head and tried to smile, but it wasn't easy. His face twisted with tears as he forced a smile. Poof! When Jin Sa-hook saw Shin Jong-hak's face, she quickly covered her mouth. She almost burst out laughing at how much he resembled a squid. Jong-hak. Shin Myung-chel stroked his grandson's head. All the while, Shin Jong-hak kept his eyes on his grandfather, trying to remember this moment forever. "Take care.
I'll always believe in you." Those were his last words. Shin Yong-chel's body turned to dust and scattered. The dust danced in the air for a few seconds before seeping into Shin Jong-hak. Shin Jong-hak closed his eyes, feeling a certain power sink into him. "Are you done?" Jin Sa-hook asked. But Shin Jong-hak didn't reply. He just stood there breathing in and out, feeling the power of the legacy he had received from Shin Myung-chel. Jin Sa-hook watched him for a while, then quietly disabled her authority. Crack! The sound of cardboard breaking rang out. Slowly, Shin Jong-hak's mind began to fade. As his mind collapsed, Shin Jong-hak slowly turned to Jin Sa-hook. He said, "Thank you." "Huh?" Jin Sa-hook was surprised. She wasn't used to being thanked, especially not from Shin Jong-hak. She shrugged. "Don't get me wrong, it's not like I did this for you." "Then what's your goal?" "That's none of your business." Soon, the darkness dissipated, and the two of them returned to the real world. Shin Jong-hak and Jin Sa-hook exchanged glances, then stepped forward at the same time. Their destination was, of course, the battlefield where Ball was. Shin Jong-hak wanted to correct his grandfather's mistake, and Jin Sa-hook wanted to carry out her own plan. Fortunately, they didn't have to travel far. Demonic energy swayed in the distance. When Jin Sa-hook noticed it, Ball's demonic energy raged like a storm, plunging the world into darkness. The sky, the earth, and everything in between were captured by Ball, including Jin Sa-hook and Shin Jong-hak. They were now inside a giant dome of demonic energy, filled with ominous stillness. "Looks like we're inside Ball's barrier," Shin Jong-hak concluded. Jin Sa-hook raised her eyebrows. "This legacy thing must really be something. It's rare for an idiot like you to notice this fast." "Shut up." Shin Jong-hak growled and began running toward the source of the demonic energy. Jin Sa-hook dashed after him. The two quickly reached the center of the barrier. There, Ball had revealed his true form. "Whoa! What the hell?" Jin Sa-hook exclaimed in shock. The other heroes reacted similarly. Ball's body had turned fluid-like. He could have been a sophisticated hologram or even a ghost. Whatever he was, he definitely didn't look human. Right now, Ball looked more like a dragon than a devil. "Huh?" While observing Ball, Jin Sa-hook spotted a familiar face in the crowd. She immediately doubted her eyes. He couldn't possibly be here. He couldn't possibly exist. Jin Sa-hook's eyes widened in astonishment. "Bell?" she muttered. The man she had killed, Bell, was alive. He was standing before her very eyes. Jin Sa-hook stood in a daze, and Bell, hearing her call his name, turned his gaze to her. Then he smiled. Bell's lips began to move. "Hey. Hey, my ass!" Jin Sa-hook wanted to run to him right away. But however, Grah! Ball howled. Now, in the true form of the evil god, he filled the entire barrier with demonic energy with a single cry. "Jin Sa-hook, you stay here." Shin Jong-hak stepped forward. Still in shock, Jin Sa-hook watched him with vacant eyes. Shin Jong-hak misunderstood, thinking she was overwhelmed by Ball, and gave a small smile. "Don't worry, this is something I have to do," he announced heroically and grabbed the conqueror's spear. "And it's also something that only I can do. You stay in the back. No, wait, you should help others evacuate." Shin Jong-hak's words slowly brought Jin Sa-hook back to her senses. She blinked a few times and finally spoke. "Who do you think you are?" "What?" The two began glaring at each other again. This time, another hero approached. "Jin Sa-hook, Shin Jong-hak? I didn't expect you two to be together." So you got caught up in this too? The familiar voice belonged to Kim Soo-ho. Jin Sa-hook glanced at Kim Soo-ho, then at Chain Ai-yun standing next to him. Damn it, she was the last person I wanted to see. Jin Sa-hook frowned. It was then. Choshak! Suddenly, a woman engulfed in azure flames burst onto the scene. Kim Soo-ho? And Knight Commander Shin Jae-hook, you too. That woman, Tomer, noticed Kim Soo-ho and the others and paused. Far from the battlefield, I was observing Ball. He probably didn't realize I was here, as I had masked parts of this barrier with my stigma. About 30 square meters of the barrier had become mine, free from Ball's influence. Even Ball, in his transcendent form, couldn't detect me as long as I stayed here. First, I switched Desert Eagle to sniper mode. Clunk, keek, keek. The familiar sound of machinery rang out. The gun merged with Aether and became as big as a human. Then I settled into position and loaded the Mistletoe bullet into the gun. Tap! It was then that something touched my shoulder. Even Aether failed to detect the mysterious presence. My blood boiled and my hair stood up. But I had no time to panic. I had to respond quickly to surprise attacks. I surrounded myself with Aether and looked back. You really got me there. The person behind me was Boss. I saw the tip of her lips tremble. She was clearly enjoying my reaction. I looked at her annoyed, and Boss shrugged. I did nothing. You misunderstood on your own. Whatever. How did you get here? Slowly, Spartan walked out from behind Boss. He wasn't the only one he had brought. So, where exactly are we, Hajin?
Jane, Jin Yohan, and Hirano Arashi were here as well. Jane was holding a woman in her arms who had fainted. Though her disheveled hair covered most of her face, I could tell it was Yu Yanha. Did every member of the chameleon troupe get caught up in this barrier? Nope. Just me, Boss, Jin Yohan, and Arashi. Others are outside. And her? Oh, her? I pointed at Yu Yanha, and Jane raised her above her head with a playful smirk. She passed out, as you can see. I might have gone too far with my prank. Anyway, Hajin, you should check your smartwatch. This girl here sent you a very, very long text. Text? Yep, it's super long. I took out my smartwatch as Jane suggested. Indeed, I had received a text from Yu Yanha. It was so long that at a glance, it almost seemed like a novel. I opened the message and tried to read it. Tap, tap. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps rang out. I raised my head, and Boss, who had been looking at my smartwatch with me, did the same. We all looked in the same direction. Immediately, a cold silence set in. Byal! A soft voice called Boss's name through the icy silence. Yi Yeon-jun was there.
Korea. Guy Sung.
Bao had captured Korea's border area in his barrier, but right now Chak Jung-yong was far from the border. He was observing a city called Gaesong, currently being destroyed by demons. This city used to be the heart of Goryeo. Shh! Chak Jung-young felt a strange sensation in his stomach, as if a lump of heated mass had been thrown in there. He didn't care much for the people of the present era, but it felt strange to watch demons ravage his hometown. Shriek, shriek, shriek. Next to him, the sound of a bow being drawn continued. Chak Jung-young glanced sideways. Jin Se-yeon was firing dozens of arrows per second, annihilating demons. In contrast, Chak Jung-young crossed his arms and didn't move. He was still sorting through his feelings. He had heard that Baal was in northern Korea. Fighting Baal sounded more fun than anything. But Chak Jung-young came here as soon as he found out Gaesong was under attack. His legs moved on their own. He couldn't understand why. "How long are you going to just stand there?" Jin Se-yeon finally asked. When Chak Jung-young refused to answer, she yelled, "Stop watching and help me out!" Chak Jung-young looked at Jin Se-yeon with cold eyes.
Anyone else would have looked away, but Jin Se-yun did not. Chak Jung-young asked quietly, "There's about 100,000 of them, no?" Jin Se-yun replied brusquely, glancing at her smartwatch. 100,000? You wish. The official approximation is 500,000. Yeah, then I guess we can use her. Use who? You'll see. I don't even have to go out there. Chak Jung-young chuckled, then muttered to himself, "Drune, you see what's going on here?" Yeah, but before that, it looks like Boss and the others got dragged into Ball's barrier. Drune's voice seeped into Chak Jung-young's ears. Doesn't matter. Boss knows how to take care of herself. So, are you ready? How many? 500,000. 500,000. We'll be cutting it pretty close, though the worst that could happen is we lose a city. Just do it, Chak Jung-young pressed. Their conversation ended there. Jin Se-yun was about to ask what that was all about. Excuse me? But before she could finish, something descended from above. Quam! What fell from the sky like a meteorite was a strange-looking creature. What is that? Jin Se-yun asked in bewilderment. 500,000 is too many for you and I to handle alone. Don't expect me to cut off 500,000 heads. Chak Jung-young turned his gaze to it, Mimyo. Its skin was black, its eyes shone crimson, and a pair of long ears rose above its head. From afar it looked like a hare, but its existence wasn't so simple. Mimyo was a creature from a foreign dimension, an existence that did not belong in this world. That doesn't answer my question, so what is it? Chameleon Troop's ultimate weapon. I'm seeing it for the first time in a long while. Mimyo opened its mouth, a pair of sharp fangs gleaming inside. Ultimate weapon? That's right. It can't and shouldn't be used recklessly. A monster that even Chak Jung-young couldn't handle at will. Having understood the warning, Jin Se-yun asked carefully, "May I ask why?" Because when it goes berserk, it can't be stopped until it's fully satisfied. All the while, Chak Jung-young's gaze was locked on Mimyo. Jin Se-yun also turned to the monster. It was then, "Kwa!" Mimyo dashed onto the battlefield. What? Chak Jung-young said its speed couldn't be matched with the naked eye. Mimyo rushed at demons with its mouth open. The demons in its path were all sucked into its mouth. Jin Se-yun's brain couldn't process what she saw. The scene before her was simply abnormal. Her jaw dropped and she became speechless. Chak Jung-young said with a smirk, 500,000 should be enough to satisfy it. Dazed, Jin Se-yun was suddenly overcome with fear. She gulped and asked, "What happens if it's not satisfied?" Well, it'll eat everyone and everything until it's full, hero or human. That was why they couldn't use Mimyo recklessly. When Mimyo went wild, even its owner Drune couldn't control it. Once stimulated, Mimyo only stopped when it was satisfied. Therefore, the chameleon troop only used it during large-scale fights. The other day, Mimyo had almost destroyed an entire city. Eat? This is how we handle things. If you don't like our way, leave. Jin Se-yun tried to protest, but Chak Jung-young cut her off. She closed her mouth with a frown. By now, it was clear to even her that Mimyo was their best means of saving Gaesong. I'd like to evacuate the heroes and civilians first. Do as you wish. We've ordered Mimyo to attack only demons, but there's a good chance that humans will get swept away too. Jin Se-yun nodded and ordered the heroes of Gaesong to retreat. This is a message from the Master Rank hero Jin Se-yun. Heroes of Gaesong, please stop fighting and focus on evacuating civilians. This is an order. Save as many people as you can. After giving the order, Jin Se-yun put her bow down and turned her gaze to Mimyo. Gwa! She saw Mimyo devouring demons. It tore with its claws and teeth and chewed with its mouth. Tear, chew. Mimyo repeated that simple process. That was all it had to do. Each time it swung its front paw, demons were torn to shreds. Each time it opened its mouth, their heads disappeared. The demon's attacks had no effect on Mimyo. The creature continued to eat, digest, over and over until its endless hunger was satisfied. Mimyo was so ruthless that Jin Se-yeon almost pitied the demons. Feeling dazed, she continued watching the massacre.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.